The other day I was trying to get an AI to write a short poem for my friend's birthday. I just typed, write a poem for a friend. And it gave me something so generic about friendship being like a flower, it made me laugh. Then I realized I needed to be much more specific. I had to learn how to ask it better questions.
Oh, I've had similar experiences. It's like talking to someone who takes everything super literally, isn't it?
Exactly. It really made me think about the language we use to communicate with these new technologies.
And that's a perfect lead-in. Welcome to English Speaking School, everyone. Today, we're diving into the language of artificial intelligence, prompts, LLMs, and bias.
That's right, John. My experience needing to be more specific is exactly what we mean when we talk about prompts. A prompt is simply the instruction or question you give to an AI system. It's your initial command to start a conversation or task.
Absolutely. And the linguistic takeaway there is crucial. How you phrase that initial instruction determines the quality of the response you get. Think of your prompt as the instructions for a very clever but literal assistant. Clear language means a clear outcome.
Exactly. It's like having an open door to a massive library. If you just say, find me a book, you'll get anything. But if you say, find me a historical fiction novel set in 18th century France focusing on political intrigue, you've given it a precise map. That precision in language is key to interacting with these large language models, or LLMs, effectively.
That's a fantastic analogy, Emma. The term large language model itself refers to these advanced AI systems trained on vast amounts of text data, allowing them to understand and generate human-like text. So our language, the words we choose for our prompts, directly shapes the language they produce back to us.
And that's precisely why this matters so much, John. If we don't use language with clarity and specific intent, these powerful tools can veer off course, giving us results that are unhelpful, or worse, perpetuate harmful stereotypes. It's like giving an architect vague instructions for your dream house. You might end up with something completely different, and potentially structurally unsound. The specific words in your prompt act as the detailed blueprints for the AI's response.
That's a perfect way to put it, Emma. The importance goes beyond just getting the right answer. It extends to understanding the inherent biases these models can reflect. Because LLMs are trained on massive datasets of human language from the internet, they unfortunately absorb not just our vocabulary and grammar, but also our societal prejudices and stereotypes, which are embedded within that text. So, if we're not careful with our input, with the specific phrasing and context we provide, we risk amplifying those biases in the AI's output. It's not the AI being evil, but rather a mirror reflecting the data it's fed.
Exactly. This isn't just about technical proficiency with a new tool. It's about becoming more mindful of the language we use every single day, recognizing its power and potential impact. The clarity, the precision, and even the cultural implications or subtext of our words take on a new weight when we're communicating with AI. Understanding this helps us guide the AI more ethically and effectively, creating outputs that are not only accurate, but also fair and representative.
That's a fantastic point, Emma. It highlights how our exploration of AI's language isn't just theoretical, it's about practical application. We're essentially learning to proofread the future, making sure the instructions we give are clear enough to avoid misunderstandings, much like how a well-structured sentence prevents confusion in human conversation.
Absolutely, John. And this journey into understanding prompt engineering and bias mitigation, Essentially, how to speak clearly and fairly to machines is one we want to continue with all of you. Think of our podcast as a linguistic open door to this new world. If you found these insights helpful and want to keep opening more of these doors with us, please subscribe to the podcast. Your subscription helps us bring these conversations to more people, extending the reach of these crucial language skills.
And just as a clear call to action in a prompt guides an AI to produce a specific result, your likes and shares guide others to our discussion. Liking helps us know what resonates most, showing us which linguistic tips you find most useful. And sharing our episodes helps spread this vital linguistic awareness to your friends and colleagues, making sure more people can decode the digital dialect with us.
Speaking of guiding, I had a situation recently where I felt like I was almost talking to a wall with an AI. I was trying to get a summary of a complex report, and despite what I thought was a clear prompt, it just gave me a bland, generic overview. It felt like it wasn't really listening to my intention.
That's a classic scenario, Emma, and it highlights a crucial linguistic strategy listeners can use. We often think of prompts as a single perfect command, but a more effective approach is what I call the open door strategy. Instead of a single closed question expecting a complete answer, think of your first prompt as simply opening a dialogue. It starts the conversation, but doesn't necessarily finish it.
So instead of just summarize this report, which is what I started with, I should view that as just the initial knock on the door, not the whole conversation.
Exactly. Your first prompt opens the door. Then you use follow-up prompts to guide the AI, adding context, asking for specifics, or even requesting a different tone. For instance, you could follow your summary request with, "Now focus only on the financial implications," or "Can you explain that last point in simpler terms for a non-expert audience, perhaps using an analogy?" You're engaging in a conversational dance, where each turn refines the AI's understanding and output.
That makes so much sense. I can see how that approach would help me get past those generic initial responses. It's like I'm not just asking a question, but teaching the AI how to better answer my question in real time.
Precisely. You're not just giving a command. You're linguistically refining the AI's understanding through an iterative process. This helps combat the generic output problem we mentioned earlier and empowers you to steer away from potential biases. For example, by explicitly asking for diverse perspectives or arguments from both sides of the issue, you're using language to actively shape a more balanced and nuanced response from the AI. Emma, have you finalized the Q3 report figures? I need them for the board meeting.
I'm not entirely sure about the sales projections for the last month. They look a bit off, to be honest.
Really? What makes you say that? We need accurate data.
It seems to me that the regional data is conflicting with the national overview. There's a discrepancy somewhere.
Ah, I see your point. Perhaps we could cross-reference them with the raw CRM data before submitting?
That's an excellent idea, John. Let's do that right away.
That little role play perfectly illustrates how we navigate uncertainty and problem solve through language. Emma, you started by saying the projections look a bit off. That phrase, while informal, is incredibly effective for flagging something that just doesn't feel right, prompting further investigation without making a hard accusation.
Exactly. And it quickly led to identifying a discrepancy. That's a crucial word when dealing with data or information that doesn't align. A discrepancy means there's a difference or a lack of agreement, and pinpointing it is the first step towards a solution. It's like telling an AI, there's a mismatch here. Find the root cause.
My follow-up question, what makes you say that, is also key. It's about asking for the specific evidence or reasoning behind a statement. Much like a good prompt needs to guide an LLM to delve deeper into its training data, it's not dismissive, it's inquisitive.
And then my observation, it seems to me that the regional data is conflicting with the national overview, uses a great hedging phrase. It seems to me allows you to express a preliminary conclusion without stating it as absolute fact, leaving room for discussion. The verb conflicting clearly signals the problem.
Then the suggestion to cross-reference the data. This isn't just a vague check it. Cross-reference is a precise verb meaning to check information against another source to verify accuracy. Using specific verbs like this gives clear, actionable instructions, whether to a colleague or a large language model, for how to approach the task.
John, that's a great point about cross-reference, and it makes me think about a common question I hear. People often say, but it's artificial intelligence, a large language model. Shouldn't it be smart enough to just infer what I mean, even if I'm not super precise?
That's a fantastic question, Emma, and it gets to the heart of how these models work. We tend to project human understanding onto AI, but an LLM doesn't infer in the way a person does. Instead, it operates on statistical probabilities, finding patterns in data. So, when you're vague, like saying, "Tell me about the sky," you introduce ambiguity. Is it the color, the weather, astronomy, or a cultural reference? Our precise language, those specific verbs and nouns, acts like a filter, narrowing down that vast data ocean to the relevant information. It's not about the AI being dumb. It's about giving it the clearest possible map. That's a perfect way to put it, Emma, a clear map. It reminds me of a time I was trying to get an AI to build a workout plan. My first prompt was just, "Give me a workout plan." And you know what I got? A really generic, almost useless list of exercises, like do some cardio or lift weights. It wasn't helpful at all. But then I refined it. I added, "Give me a workout plan for a beginner, focusing on strength for 3 days a week that I can do at home with no equipment." The difference was night and day. It gave me a structured, practical routine with bodyweight exercises and clear sets and reps. My linguistic takeaway was that adding specific attributes or constraints to your request radically changes the output.
Absolutely. Your attributes and constraints are what we call adjectives and adverbs in language. When you said beginner, strength, 3 days a week, at home, and no equipment, you were using adjectives and adverbs to modify your core request. These words act like high-precision filters, telling the AI exactly what kind of workout plan you need, rather than letting it wander aimlessly through its vast data. This precision isn't just about getting a better answer. It's also a powerful tool against unconscious bias. If you just ask for a leader, the AI might default to examples based on common, often historical, patterns that might not reflect diversity. But if you specify a female leader in tech who is also an innovator, you're actively shaping the AI's search and helping it avoid making assumptions based on generic data.
So, to wrap things up, let's quickly recap our top 3 takeaways from today's discussion.
Absolutely, John. First, remember that consistency over intensity is crucial. Even 5-10 minutes of daily practice makes a huge difference.
Second, and this is a big one, embrace your mistakes. They're not failures, but valuable stepping stones on your learning journey.
And third, active immersion. Surround yourself with English as much as possible. Listen, read, and try to speak, even if it's just to yourself.
Now for your quick challenge for the week. We want you to take just 5 minutes right after this podcast to describe your immediate surroundings out loud in English. What do you see? What do you hear? What are you going to do next? Just speak.
Don't overthink it. Just let the words flow. It's a fantastic way to put what you've learned into immediate practice.
Remember, your journey to fluency is a unique and rewarding one. Every word you speak, every attempt you make is a sign of your progress.
Be kind to yourself. Celebrate the small victories and know that you are capable of achieving your English speaking goals. Your voice matters, and we believe in you.
That's it for this episode of the English Speaking School podcast.
Thank you so much for listening. Keep practicing, and we'll talk to you next time.